Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Behind the Reel podcast. We have another Kansas Kayak Angler on the show today. We're going to be joined by Troy Nydegger, and he is going to be talking about his success at Perry Lake here recently, fishing with the Kansas Kayak Anglers. And also, we had an event in conjunction with that one from the Kansas Bass Nation Kayak Anglers. So he took away a couple trophies that day, a nice little check, and some really good AOY points. He does receive an invitation to fish the state championship on the KBN side of things. So that was kind of a big incentive to fish that. So even though now that he has gotten his invitation to fish the state championship, we are running things a little bit differently this year. So he may continue to fish those KBN events because there is a pretty good payout for those as well. So we hadn't done that in the past. Just for those of you that might be interested in fishing the KBN stuff, understand we are doing a payout at the ramp. It's actually going to be through PayPal, but we are doing a payout unlike we've done in the past. So cool opportunity for you guys to get out, qualify to fish a national circuit, and win some cash. So we're going to talk about that tonight. If you guys have any questions along the way, want to ask Troy some questions about, baits, whatever it may be. I know he's going to bust out some tackle. We'll talk about some of that stuff. I do want to mention we did a giveaway. We did a 3,000 subscriber giveaway. So we just recently hit that 3,000 subscriber mark. Thank all of you guys for that. But we have some really cool stuff to give away that has not been claimed yet. I have gotten the F5 spinning rod, the Ghost Code, out to Chad Scarlett. He should have that already. Chad, let me know if you have not received that yet. And Marco Munoz should have received his amped 15 amp hour lithium battery with charger. Marco, let me know if you don't have that yet. But I still have some unclaimed prizes from Mr. Shannon Copeland. I've got a bait for you. Let me know. If you are Shannon, message me. If you know Shannon, message him, because he's got like $150 bait here that's just collecting dust on my shelf. So let him know about that. And then also Christopher Goya, you've also got a legal dope bait. Yeah, I'm wearing the hat today. A legal dope bait of choice. So you need to let me know what bait you want. That way Edwin can get that thing in production for you. There may be a little bit of a wait on that. So let me know as quick as you can. If you are Christopher, message me. If you know Christopher, message him. Chris Farmer, I've got a Biz Baits prize pack for you, valued at $50. Might be a good thing that you waited a little bit, because you may end up getting some of the new Biz Baits lures. So, they're kind of known for their soft plastics. They had teamed up with True South Custom Lures in the past for their jigs and spinner baits and whatnot. But Biz Baits is now doing their own thing on jigs, spinner baits, buzz baits, all that stuff. So you may have an opportunity to get some of the new stuff. They're at iCast right now. We'll talk about iCast here in a little bit. And I've got a Savior retrieval device. I had it handy here. Here it is. Savior retrieval device, longtime supporter of kayak fishing here in Kansas. So excited to give that away to Mr. William Bond. If you're William, message me. If you know William, message him. All right. We're going to go ahead. We're going to bring Troy on the show. We're going to talk a little bit about fishing in the mud hole that is Perry Lake, and how he was able to come away with a pretty impressive win over a very stacked field. So we'll get with him, and I feel like I am forgetting something. Do just want to mention it is very hot in the garage today. So we'll probably keep this podcast right about an hour. Yeah, we probably won't go over that hour time slot. So just a little heads up there. I'm a little bit toasty in here, but I'm going to go ahead, bring Troy on, and we'll get the show started. Make sure you guys do me a huge favor. Comment over there in the live comment feed if you have any questions. And do me an even bigger favor, send the video link to your friends, post it in your local fishing forums, whatever that may be, share it around, because before you know it, we'll be celebrating our 4,000 subscriber mark as well. So thanks to you guys. All right, let's go ahead and bring Troy on. Hey, what's up, man?
Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm doing good tonight. A little toasty, but I'm sure you were as well out there on Perry. How was the weather that day?
Perry, we started off, it wasn't bad at all, but it got windy. That's the main thing I remember is it got windy that day. That it really affected the fishing quite a bit.
Did it? Well, yeah, it's definitely something that we have to battle pretty regularly here. So, yeah, we'll definitely get into that. If you want to maybe just give the folks at home that aren't familiar with you maybe a little bit of a backstory, kind of your introduction into fishing or kayak fishing, and kind of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, as far as fishing goes, I have fished for, since I was a kid. My brother and I got pretty into bass fishing like in our 20s. We bought a little bass boat and hauled that thing all over the place. We went through a couple different boats actually. Then 30s hit and married and kids, quit fishing for quite a while, got into other things, and then I don't know, probably about 7 or 8 years ago, got the itch again. Kids are starting to grow up, and my wife and I bought a boat, and I pretty soon got rid of that one, got a bass boat. But before I got the bass boat, I actually was talking to somebody that was into kayak fishing when I was, looking at kind of rebuilding my arsenal of rods and reels. We got talking. He was, oh yeah, I fished these kayak tournaments and blah blah blah. In passing, that you mentioned that, I'm like, that sounds pretty cool. And so I kind of started researching that and started off with a Jackson Coosa HD, and then a couple years later bought the Hobie Outback that I'm still riding now in 2019. So I bought the new 2019 Outback when it first came out, and then I still got that kayak to this day. So
nice.
But yeah, that really kind of started to feed that tournament itch again. You could kind of go fish these tournaments and tournament bass fish without having to haul a boat and deal with all the, I don't know, it was a lot more laid back atmosphere than dealing with boat tournaments. So
sure.
Ever since.
Heck yeah. And did you start out fishing with like the Northeast Kansas Kayak Anglers? You've been around for a while. I'm trying to remember. I kind of came on the scene in 2015. Were you around then? What did the introduction to the club level stuff look like for you?
It's probably around the 2017, I think. 2016, 2017.
Okay.
Jason Griffith kind of got me
There you
going originally, right? Like I think that's who I was originally talking to. Yeah, so my first one I think was a Mocan, and then started with the Northeast Kansas Kayak Anglers stuff shortly after that. So, but yeah, that's kind of about the time I got into it. And like I said, it was at that point was just anything I could get the time to go do, right? So.
Sure. And you said you're in the you said what model you were in. What model are you fishing out of now?
The Hobie Outback.
The Outback.
Yep.
What do you think about that kayak, about that platform? Have you gotten a chance to maybe compare it to like a pro angler? Like, what are your thoughts on the Outback?
Yeah, I've come close to pulling the trigger on PA12. I think a PA12 would be the biggest I'd go up to. I've been in a couple PA14s. My buddy Kyle Sabner's got the
360 maybe
PA14, yeah. And to me, it's just too much boat. I mean, if I'm, I always give him crap about it because I tell him if I'm going to go out in that, I might as well take my bass boat out. But to me, I think I'd like a little bit more depth of the PA-12, but
Yeah.
the Hobie is just such a good platform. It's a small enough
Yeah.
boat that I can haul it around and throw it in and out of the back of my pickup without any problem.
Yep.
I do a lot of just getting off of work and going out and fishing. I used to have a trailer back before I got my Tundra. I had a Grand Cherokee, so a trailer just made more sense to throw the kayaks on and off the trailer. But ever since I got the Tundra, and I can just slide it in and out of the back of the truck, I don't have any use for the trailer anymore. It's just easy to get it in and get it out and into the water. And so I really haven't found a real strong urge to upgrade or change out of it yet. So
Sure. Yeah. It really
it's a
is.
good middle of the road. I fish
Yeah.
with like I said, Kyle, and then Hip win a lot too. And Hip lately has been fishing out of a Lynx, and Kyle fishes out of the PA-14, and I'm in the Outback. So we kind of got all the bases covered there as far as sizes go.
Sure. Heck yeah. Okay, so tell me about some of your Outbacks are the best. Do you even fish anymore? Hashtag. I wonder if that's meant for me or himself. I don't know. Let me know, Jacob, because I wonder sometimes if you even fish anymore. But over the last month or so, I've wondered if I even fish anymore. Troy, have you asked yourself that question recently?
Do I even fish anymore?
Yeah.
No.
About like 5 days goes by and I start asking myself that question. I'm like,
Yeah.
I need
Well,
to
I
get
guess,
back
yeah,
out
I think
there.
I mentioned to you earlier. Been starting to fish some of those sunflower weeklies.
Yeah.
So we fished out at Lake Shawnee last night and fixed last evening. Didn't
How'd
do
that
so hot in that one, but
know? How do you like that lake?
like I said, growing up in Topeka, I used to fish it a lot. I haven't fished it, but maybe a couple times in the past 20 years. So I think I fished it once last year, and we did pretty decent. But I think it was pretty early in the season. I remember we were still catching quite a few trout.
Oh, okay.
Because they, when they stock it over the winter. So, but yeah, it's one of those. They were being finicky last night. I can tell you that much.
Yeah. I think I saw something. Who won that one?
Last night
Yeah.
was when
It,
took first in that one last night.
what'd you say?
I think it was Shannon Copeland.
Was it? Okay. He didn't even need the super tiny, did he?
I know, right?
Yeah, you guys got to let him know to claim his prize. Oh, he just liked a post about this podcast, so hopefully he didn't skip out on the intro. And that may be the problem. He may be watching these podcasts. He may just be missing out on me revealing that to everybody. But
If I see him next time, I'll poke him about that.
Shannon, if you're watching right now, this belongs to you. Please let me know where to send it. Thank you. I've seen some really good smallmouth come out of there. Have you ever caught any good smallmouth out of Shawnee?
Couple decent ones. I caught a few dinks last night. But I remember last year catching a couple decent ones.
Yeah.
I kind of ran into a few, kind of an area that had some largemouth stacked up on it, and kind of picked through that last night. But
Nice. What is kind of your favorite way to fish? Like, are you a power guy, finesse guy? What would
if
you?
I have my choice, I'm throwing a jig rod. I mean, that's going to
Yeah.
be either that
Heck
or a jig through brush most of the time. I mean, I'll throw a Texas rig around weed lines. I like grassy areas preferably, which Lake Perry is not. But
Yeah.
any place I can run is my preferred. But haven't had I haven't been able to do that a lot lately.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely less grass right now than there probably has been in several years, just with all the low water levels.
Yep.
Uh, that's a nice jig you got there, friend. What kind of jig do you throw?
Well, I got one sitting here. I actually I make my own, and that's a football jig. Like I would throw a lot out at someplace like Perry that's real rocky,
Okay.
or more of a
So
an
like a
arty
half
style.
or 3/4 ounce or
Yeah, usually I'm throwing a half ounce.
okay.
Or I got like an arty style head there.
The best jig ever made.
Yeah, so that's my go-to right there. I'm throwing that a lot in
Like
that.
a green pumpkin. What do you got there?
Yeah, it's a magic craw color, right? So
Okay.
it's a green pumpkin with a little bit of iridescent blue in it.
Blue. Yep.
I really like that color because I think that that can be a crawdad, that can be a bluegill, that can be
Yep.
whatever they want to eat. I mean, you get that in the right place, and a lot of good luck with that.
For
Um,
sure.
the water's got a lot of color to it. I may throw more of a black and blue or a black and purple, but
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be my go-to most of the time.
Nice.
And I'll
What
I'll slap some kind of craw trailer on the back, usually an Okeechobee craw or just straight green pumpkin colored.
what what's the rod setup look like for the jig?
Um, Usually just throwing on a heavy, like a 7.2, 7.3 heavy. Lately I've been using a Shimano X Pride for my jig rod. Um, I've been liking that quite a bit.
Okay. Nice. Um, what about Perry? Did you throw the jig much at Perry?
I did. I started off um kind of a go-to spot. I launched in Rock Creek, the Rock Creek boat ramp,
Mm-hmm.
and usually there's a couple spots around there where I can drag a jig and get a pretty good bite. But I just they weren't having it. I don't know. I caught a couple on the jig, and then I kind of switched over to some top water, and I got a couple on a popper, and then but yeah, they were just kind of being finicky about it.
So
Um,
so walk us through kind of maybe the week before the tournament if you had any sort of like practice or game plan. What did that look like going into the event? And then maybe just kind of how that played out, or you had to switch things up on the fly, on game day. What did that look like?
yeah, uh, going in that night or that earlier that week on a Tuesday. So I'd fished it then, but we launched out of Sloth Creek uh, on Tuesday, and so the furthest I pedaled my kayak that night was down in the marina and fished around there. But everybody was catching shorts. I don't think you know most everybody was catching something short. There's a couple decent ones caught, but funny thing, she fished pretty well enough to probably I had the wrong identifier. I'd flipped my identifier over, so I was showing the identifier for the other previous week and got disqualified for the whole thing. So
Oh shoot.
won't be doing that again. But yeah, so I kind of had a game plan. I knew I wanted to launch out of Rock Creek, but I also knew that I wanted to cut across the lake and fish that other bank over there because I'd found a pretty decent topwater bite over there too. So it's kind of what I was going to roll with. The wind made it a little dicier than I wanted to. Crossing the lake back with up from behind was a bit of a. I made the move over there, and just about the time I got over there, it started sprinkling and looked like it was going to storm on us pretty good. But fortunately, the storm kind of held off. It rained a little bit, but not much. And I was able to, between throwing some top water and throwing a Ned rig, was able to muster up a limit over there. But like I said, I didn't really have anything real big. I kind of worked that area for a couple hours, kind of lost confidence in that. So I kind of decided to cut back over across the lake, back over to where I was started. And I was going to go hit one of my, a couple of my go-to spots again. And first spot I got over to, there was already somebody fishing it. So I just turned around and said, okay, well, I'll head back towards the boat ramp and we'll just see what kind of happens. Like I said, the wind had kind of been building up all day. So I got back over by the boat ramp, and there was already, a handful of other kayakers over there. And so I just kind of found some space and got in there, and it was just kind of at that point, to be honest, the square bill. It was windy enough. It was hard to throw the Ned, but that was the only thing I was really getting bit on. So, I was kind of lining myself up with the wind where I could kind of sort of feel it hit the bottom, and they just pick it up, and you go to move it again, and it doesn't move. You just set the hook. But like I said, I'd kind of fallen in behind some other guys that were fishing, and I went up around this point, and I was fishing out a little deeper, I think, than some of them were. I was trying to stay in that 10 to 12 foot range, and found a handful of fish kind of stacked up on that point about noonish. And I just kind of parked there and stayed there till the tournament was over. Cold 3 times at that spot. So
nice. And you were catching quite a few smaller ones then, or?
Yeah. So, once I got back over to the cove by the boat ramp, like I said, I kind of worked my way up around that point, and that's when I caught that, I think it was 18 and a half inch smallmouth.
Yeah.
And I kind of threw back into that spot, and then I caught a largemouth after that one. And then I caught a little smallmouth, and I caught another largemouth. So there was, and I think while I was sitting there, I caught a couple drum. It's Perry for anyway. Small sauger, caught some crappie. There was just all kinds of fish stacked up on this point. I was just caught a white bass, several species, but you picked through them, and there was largemouth and smallmouth stacked up in there too. So I just kind of sat there and picked through them for the rest of the day. I think I had kind of followed Austin Applegate around that corner. He was fishing in front of me. He came back around and asked if I cared if he went, where I was fishing. I said, take whatever bank you want. I'm just going to park here and kind of stay here. So, and that's what I did. And like I said, I called 3 times there and ended up paying off. So,
yeah. So you said, well, before we went live, you were talking about how things were pretty close, even up towards the end of the tournament. So, what were you? You said you were in like 3rd or 4th or something when the leaderboard got turned off, or what? What was that?
Yeah, last time I saw, I kind of looked at the stand. I try not to look at the standings too much throughout the day when I go. When I'm fishing, I kind of try to focus on my own business and catch what's in front of me. But yeah, last I had looked, I was still in like 3rd, 4th place. I think I was in 4th, rolling up around noon. So, I think it was lines out was at like 1:30, I think, on this one, wasn't it? It was kind of an early one.
Yeah.
So
5:30 to 1:30 sounds about right.
Yeah. So but like I said, I rolled up onto that point after I'd gone and checked the other spot. There was somebody already on it, and I came back around, and there was already, some other traffic in there. So I just, like I said, kind of worked my way in, and I found that point right around noon and just parked there. Like I said, cold 3 times there. So that ended up, that 18.5 ended up being big fish for the tournament too, which kind of shocked me. But yeah, it was a tough day.
Big fish was a smallie.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It was a tough day.
Yeah, you had the lead by 5 inches. Yeah, by more than 6 inches.
6, yeah.
So as you guys can see here, the 18.5-inch smallie that I brought up on here earlier. Man, that almost looks like an 18 3/4. We won't get into that.
Well, you know what? I even commented to some of the guys after I look. I do have a picture where it's touching 18 3/4. So fortunately, it wasn't close. Right? If I'd have lost by a 1/4 inch, I'd have been kicking myself for that one. But yeah, it was actually closer to 18 3/4.
Nice, nice, thick little. Were they healthy? This one looks like it was.
Yeah, the largemouth especially. Like I said, that smallmouth was a little lanky, but
Sure.
the
Smallmouth doesn't look too
there's some
bad.
really good ones in there. I know last season I caught some monsters out of Perry, some big smallmouth.
Got a little hunchback here.
Yeah.
And last one's a 15 1/4. What bait are you throwing on that Ned rig?
It's just I like the Z-Man TRDs. I mean, I keep it super simple. I just green pumpkin. If green pumpkin's not working, I'll change up to a green pumpkin and maybe throw a green pumpkin. I mean, I don't think I have any other colors. I pretty much live and die by that green pumpkin Ned rig when I'm throwing that. I've never found a reason to. I've got other colors, obviously, but
Sure.
it never seems to make any difference if I throw any other colors. I've
Even in the dirty water.
Yeah, they'll find it. I've never. I've got some white ones that I'll kind of toying around with. You know, I mean, if I think they're feeding on small bait fish or something, maybe throw the whites. But as far as dark colors go, yeah, the green pumpkin seems to be the go-to for me anyway.
Nice. Okay, so we kind of got an idea of your style of fishing here. I think I know the answer to this first one, but if you had to pick one, are you going with a Texas rig or a jig?
That totally depends on on what I'm fishing.
Got it.
If it's something I think if it's grassy, I'm probably throwing a Texas rig.
Okay.
But if it's solid cover, you know, even woods, you know, wood, rock, it's a jig. Docks, especially docks. I like flipping docks.
Heck yeah, me too. Okay, fair enough. Now, shaky head or drop shot?
Shaky head.
You
I
throw
could
it.
probably count. I take a drop shot rig with me almost every time I go, but I could probably count on one hand the amount of fish I've caught on a drop shot.
Really? Okay.
I don't know why. I just don't have any confidence in it, and I just don't ever catch anything on it. I threw it last night at Perry, or I'm sorry, at Lake Shawnee,
yeah.
for a few because I found some fish stacked up. I had caught a handful of them on a Ned rig, and I was looking for a couple more. You know, that might kind of stopped. So I drug a drop shot through there a few times and just nothing. So I'm sure it's just, you know, I don't
Put
have
the time
since I
in
don't
with
have the
it.
confidence in it, I don't have
Yeah.
the patience in it, right? So
Yep. Now, what about a jerk bait or a swim bait? Which way are you going?
most likely throwing a swim bait. I
Like
like to
a
throw you know, like a shad colored Kitech or something along those lines. This season I've been kind of getting some of the big swim baits too. So um, you know, if the bite's good, I'll throw the you know, mag draft. Been
nice.
having fun
Okay.
with that one lately too. So uh,
Have you been fishing that one like this? You say this year?
yeah.
What are you throwing? Where are you throwing that at?
Just depends. You know, if along dams, it's fun to throw it around docks. You get a lot of followers that come out and just you'll either pull schools of shad out with it, or you'll get a couple followers that come. You know, even if you don't catch them, the water's clear enough. You'll see them follow it. They're those bigger baits are kind of fun to get some interest in. I've got a couple glide baits that I've been throwing too. Got a couple shads, the Spro versions that just came out. So I've been kind of playing around with those a little bit too.
Nice.
Haven't got any takers on those yet, but I have seen a couple followers. So
Nice. Heck yeah. Let's see. What's the next one here? I've got shallow fishing. Or are you going deep?
Deep's relative to whatever it is you're fishing. I would prefer to fish shallow, but especially in tournaments lately, I've been trying to stick out a little deeper. I, I like to try to fish away from the crowds. If everybody's up beating the banks, I'll try to find something out a little bit deeper. I'm not good at offshore deep fishing by any means.
Sure.
Something I'm kind of working on, trying to figure that game out. But yeah, I like to kind of be a little bit deeper than everybody else. If everybody is up beating the banks, I might push off. I like to find the weed lines. If I can find a defined weed line, like 7-8 foot of water, that's kind of a spot that I'll target a lot.
Yeah. Heck yeah. You think that's part of why you did well at Perry? It sounded like you were out a little bit deeper than the other guys.
I think so a little bit, especially on that one point that I pulled up on. Like I said, I'd seen 2 or 3 people already fish by it. And I think I just kind of pushed out a little bit deeper, still casting up to the bank, but just pulling it out a little bit, a little slower, let it get down a little bit deeper. That's where the bites were coming from. Like I said, at 18 and a half, she was in about 10 foot of water, 10, 12.
Nice. Okay. Do you, and was it pretty dirty water?
It was up shallow. It was getting pretty stirred up. Like I said, really windy that day. So, up along the banks, we're getting pretty churned up, pretty good, especially on the windblown banks. I mean, they were chocolate milk. It was just real churned up.
Is that something that scares you away? Does it bother you? I mean, maybe you're used to it because
the real dirty water I tend to stay away from. I mean, if it's that churned up, in situations like that where it's really churned up and you can kind of see a line, I might fish the outside of that line, but I try to stay out of the dirty stuff.
Okay.
That being said, I'm not a real good clear water guy either. I hate really crystal clear water because it just I haven't figured that out very well.
Yeah. What about like Wilson? Does that clarity intimidate you, or is that okay?
No, that's
3 to 5 feet, something like that, maybe.
Yeah. You just got to make a little bit longer casts sometimes, but
that's pretty damn clear for Kansas, though.
That is. Our lakes were pretty clear this year, though.
Yeah, I would agree.
I was down at Lake of the Ozarks a few times earlier this season, and that water was ridiculously clear for Lake of the Ozarks. It's the clearest I've ever seen it, but they hadn't really dumped anything from Truman in there yet. So
lack of rain, I guess.
Yeah, something. But yeah, it was really clear.
We definitely haven't had the lack of wind.
Nah, not in
Kansas. I don't feel like. Yeah. Now, are you going green pumpkin or watermelon red?
I'm usually gonna go green pumpkin.
I figured. Vibrating jig, or are you going spinnerbait?
Oh, see, there's another one. It just really depends. I throw them both equally. If there's a lot of grass, I don't like throwing a chatterbait around grass. I'll throw it or there's timber. Then definitely spinnerbait. But if it's a weed line, it's something more defined that I can, or if it's shallow, or the grass is down a few feet and I can throw over the top of it, go on a vibrating jig.
Okay. Okay. And if you had to choose, would you go with a 10-pounder or 30-pound limit?
10-pounder all day.
Just going for that one big
I'll
bite.
I'll go fish all day for one big.
Do you? Is that the kind of jig mentality, or?
Yeah, just the bigger bait. I mean, if I'm lucky. I get to fish, quite a bit. So if I want to go catch numbers, I can go catch numbers. But it's not every day you get to go stick a big one. So.
Heck yeah, I like it. And that's kind of what's pushed you to fish those bigger glide baits, I'm assuming.
Yeah, just playing around with them. Yeah, just that whole just seeing one come up and hit one of those big baits is entertaining, to say the least.
Sure. Okay, tell us about the guitars behind you.
Well, I've played guitar for most of my life. This is my when we moved into this house. I built this little studio down here, and it became my office during COVID. So I work down here a lot. We're hybrid now, so I spend a couple days at home and a few days in the office these days. But yeah, some of these I've had for 20, 30 years. So
Is it like a recording studio or?
it's just a little recording space that I built down here. I don't play a whole lot anymore. I've been in bands and stuff off and on throughout the years, but yeah, just kind of another expensive hobby that I have.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's why I tell people I can't afford any other hobbies. This one's expensive enough.
Yep.
Yeah, especially if you start getting into swim baits, that can add up real quick.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, those Spro Chad seem like a really good bang for your buck in that kind of realm of baits.
Yeah. I've had them out a couple times. I don't have any experience with the original Chad Shad, but the Spro ones got some pretty good action to them. They're kind of fun to throw. You can work them real slow and let them glide, or you can chop them and they just I mean, they almost dart back and forth sideways without even moving anywhere.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. So.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I would say if they're not biting a jig, you might toss that glide bait around them docks.
Oh, for sure.
Okay, and then let's see.
The one caveat I would have to that though is I'd hate to stick a $80 to $100 bait on a cable and break it off.
Well, if it's this time of year, you're just probably going to be swimming, huh?
Yep. Yeah, going in after it.
Yeah. That's the other thing. Like, I need to invest in something too because I would hate for that to happen because some of the baits that I throw are pretty pricey, and just like a nice retrieval system.
Yeah.
I think there's one called the one that all the swim bait guys recommend. It's like Toothy Fisherman Lure Retriever. Yep, there it is.
Big contraption with the chains hanging off of it.
Yep.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yep, that's the one that everybody says to get. They're $50. So I suppose if you save a bait, then it pays for itself.
Yep, it's true.
But okay, what about like the KBN stuff? What are your plans moving forward with that? Was it kind of your goal to fish the state championship? And then like how long have you been fishing KBN and maybe give us some insight on that?
I fished one or two KBN tournaments last season. But yeah, the end goal was to get to the championship tournament. I just kind of wanted to take part in that. So I kind of, which one was it earlier in the season that was that?
There was a standalone Bone Creek event and then a Big Hill event.
Big Hill. Yeah, it was Big Hill. Because I think I've had a good showing at Big Hill too. And I kind of wished I'd gotten into it on that one.
Oh, you didn't buy into?
But I hadn't bought into the KBN on that one.
Gotcha.
So this one came around. I was like, yeah, I'm going to pull the trigger and do it.
Nice.
And,
well, it paid off.
Yeah, glad I did.
So yeah, you got your entry fee paid, made a few bucks. So and you're in the state championship, and basically that's paid for, from your winnings, with the potential to go represent the state on the national level. So that'll be cool. That's obviously the goal now, I'm assuming.
Yep. That'd be super cool. Yeah.
And then now, what do you think about fishing KBN from here on out? Now that you are qualified, does the allure of winning some cash, justify the cost of the entry fee, or now that you're qualified, are you going to sit out?
Oh no, I'll any of the ones that I can fish. I'll definitely be trying to get into them.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of what works with the schedule.
What's your next event that you plan on fishing?
Gosh, I'm not even 100% sure, to be honest with you. I know
I
we've
think
got another big.
our next one I want to say is the Roadrunner deal. Is that
Yeah,
right? Yeah, the Tri-County
yeah,
Shootout.
yeah. So I'll probably
So,
take part in that. Probably the next one I got coming up.
and just for any of you guys that are interested in that one, um, you're going to be able to fish Hillsdale, Lacine, Lewisburg, Middle Creek, Pleasanton East, Pleasanton West, Mound City, Kreitzer, Cedar Creek, Fort Scott, and then Bourbon State Fishing Lake. Excuse me. So those are the eligible waters. That one's going to be on July 22nd, just 10 days away. So if anybody's looking into getting that one, you can go over there on TourneyX and get signed up for it. If you need any more information on the tournaments, go to KansasKayakAnglers.com. And then after that one, we switched up this next event. We were going to be fishing. Oh, I'm drawing a blank. Now we're fishing Cedar Bluff. Have you ever fished out there?
I think I don't think I've fished Cedar Bluff yet.
Okay. Yeah, but that one we've never fished as a club, or I don't think any of the clubs have.
Yeah.
And then the one that this one was replacing, gosh dang, I'm drawing a blank. So if one of you guys watching knows, comment over there. But that was going to be the first time we'd ever fished that one. Cedar Bluff has been fishing really well. A lot of the boat tournament guys are speaking really highly of that one right now. A lot of good fish being caught out there. I talked to somebody the other day that said they fished a tournament out there and the big fish was almost 8 pounds.
Wow.
Seven, real high 7-pound fish. So Glen Elder, thank you, Organic. Glen Elder was going to be where we were having that tournament on the 22nd. And water's low, and apparently that's not a great mixture with that lake in particular, just the water being low. So we switched it up. But then we got Mine Land, Wildlife Area, Strip Pits, and then we've got Championship on Melbourne. You've done well on Melbourne before, haven't you?
Yeah. To me, Melbourne fish is a lot like Perry, with the mix of smallies and largemouth. But Melbourne can be one of those kind of finicky ones too, where you'll find them one week and the next week they're just gone. I think they just push out a little bit deeper, but they're not as easy to target when they're not up shallow.
Now, what does your electronic setup look like? Speaking of fish being hard to target out deeper and stuff like that.
Yeah. On the kayak, I'm just running a Garmin 93 SV.
Nice. Are you running the GT 54?
Yeah, I've got the 54 on the kayak. I had a 56 on my bass boat, but the kayak I got a 54.
What kind of boat is a bass boat?
It's a 2006 Nitro 591.
Nice. Cool.
18.5-foot bass boat.
You got live scope on there?
I do have live scope on the bass boat. I've been been trying to find a good deal on an extra LVS 32 that I can slap on I'm hoping to find somebody that's upgrading so I can get the an extra transducer, because that's the only thing keeping me from being able to move it from my boat to my kayak.
Just the transducer?
Yeah, because I could put the black box in some sort of contraption that I can move it back and forth. Yeah. I've already got the cradles, I just pop the head unit off and move it between cradles. So if I had a live scope transducer, I wouldn't have to move it from the trolling motor. That's the only thing keeping me really from putting it on the kayak is getting it off of the trolling motor. And I don't really want to run it on a different type of mount or pole. I like having it on the trolling motor where I can kind of move it around.
Sure. Okay. Are you comfortable fishing with live scope? Is that something you've kind of gotten comfortable with, or um,
Uh, yeah, from the
perfected
boat.
maybe?
Yeah, from the boat. I hardly ever look at anything but. To be honest with you,
Okay.
I even just for finding, not necessarily for targeting fish. I mean, a lot of guys have videos where they'll show them casting to specific fish and catching those. I don't think I've ever really done that, but it is nice to be able to pan around and find the cover. Once you find the cover, being able to drag through that, or just even seeing how fish are reacting or what they're doing.
Where they're at in the water column, or if there's
Yeah,
fish in
or
the
if they're
area.
even just how active they are, right? Like sometimes you'll see them and you'll throw a lure past them and they don't budge. Okay, well I'm gonna either those aren't bass or
Yeah,
they're just completely not interested. Whereas if you just saw them on your down imaging as you went by, you may sit there and cast them for half the day because they're there. But when you can actually see how they're reacting or not reacting, or you may get a couple followers that come up and peel off, and then it's just it's interesting being able to see how they react. I think is where live scopes really changing things.
for sure. Yeah. So do you think that that would transition well into the kayak? Should, I guess, right?
Yeah, I mean it should. Like I said, after I'm fishing out of my boat quite a bit, I do miss having that, but I don't know also how well. Like I said, I like being able to control it with a foot pedal on the trolling motor when I'm fishing out of the bow of a bass boat.
Sure.
Whereas on a kayak, I don't know, and I know a lot of guys do it. I just don't know how much I would like having to move it. You got one hand down here, it's already steering your kayak. You're trying to fish, and then also trying to maneuver your live scope around. I'm sure I'm sure it would work fine, but it's a lot to juggle.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. I
And I
I
like
can.
and to be honest, I like to just go fish. You know what I mean? If I know they're there, I try not to get too caught up in the electronics of it all. Just fish.
Sure. I like that. What's the story behind scuba mask?
But scuba mask.
Any idea? I don't know. I
Do not
figured that was
know.
like an inside joke or something.
No idea.
I don't know. Maybe, maybe if you're, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not gonna. We'll wait on Tim. I believe that's Tim, right? We'll wait on his response there. Uh, do you think that what would you attribute your success at Perry to if you had to put your finger on one thing, maybe like I don't know if it could have been a mental thing or whatever it may have been, but uh, if there was one thing that you think that maybe you were doing differently than these other guys, like was it just you found a spot that had fish on it? Like, what do
Yeah.
you think it was?
I mean, I live about 45 minutes from Perry, 45 50 minutes from Perry. Um, so I'm up there. I fish it, a decent amount of times. So I've got some spots that I've got confidence in, and like I said, I think it comes down to that confidence thing. I knew there were some spots where I normally catch fish, and if I go there and they're not biting there, or I didn't catch where I thought I'd catch there, um, like I said, dude, like on that tournament, I bailed on the spot that I wanted to start on, and I literally pedaled clear across the lake to the other side, to the other bank, even though it was windy as all get out, just because I knew that there was a bite over there. And so just having some confidence and knowing that the fish are there and not just giving up on a spot, because that's one thing I think that's important in kayak fishing is just working a spot. When if you know the fish are there, it's a matter of figuring out how to get them to bite. Um, and that's kind of how Perry panned out for me. I knew there was a bite, like you said, on the other bank, a little bit of a topwater bite, and I was able to go over there and get my limit and not get too spun out.
Right.
Because that's always the hard part in a tournament is if you've gone half the day and you haven't caught anything, it's real easy to spin out and just then you start lose that confidence. And then, so to me, tournament fishing has a lot to do with confidence, just knowing that there's fish there and that you can catch them if you just stick to it.
And is there any tricks that you have to kind of like keep your composure? Any, I don't know, are you like singing songs or like what do you any advice out there?
Just keeping the bait wet, man. Just keep moving. I mean, it's a fine line between giving up on a spot and working it, like I mentioned, there's fish there and working it.
Yeah.
But if you can't get them bit, there is time to bail and move to a different spot. So you
What do
just got to
you
have some backup spots to go to.
how do you put a number on something like that? Like, I'm assuming you probably do this, but like, I'm going to fish here for 20 minutes, or I'm going to fish here for 45 minutes, or like, when do you call it quits?
Yeah, it's just a feel thing for me. There's nothing, there's no time limit or anything on it. If I'm getting bit, but if I'm getting short, sometimes you'll get a short strike, or you get some clues here and there that yeah, they're still here. I just got to stick it out. But if you're just getting nothing, you'll know it's time to bail on a spot and go elsewhere. But yeah, it's a fine line for sure. But yeah, it's a feel thing for me.
Okay. Here's a fun one. What are your go-to snacks?
Go-to snacks. So assuming that I remember them, I usually have some chips and some jerky on the
No
boat.
bananas?
No bananas.
Huh.
I'm not a superstitious guy, but no bananas.
No bananas. Jerky or chips?
Chips.
What are the chips? What are the go-tos?
Usually they're going to be some Doritos or some cheddar flavor.
Okay. All right. I can dig that. But what happens if do you forget the snacks a lot, I'm assuming?
It happens.
Oh,
Then you just stick it out.
you don't have much of a choice at that point.
Yeah. Oh, there you
Uh,
go. The scuba mask is to dive down and get your baits.
yep, there you go. He must have one on his boat at all times. I know he's been throwing the mag draft
Yeah.
a little bit. I think he threw it at Wilson, but I haven't thrown it much. I have some, but it seems like more people have confidence in um, the harness bait versus the freestyle. What is your preference there? Like like whether
I
you rig
use
it.
the harnessed one. I've got a couple of freestyles, but I would think that would be more suitable for throwing in grass and stuff, and I'll usually throw in something else there.
Yeah.
I got on a few the Big Hill tournament in practice. I caught a few on the mag draft along the dam. Um,
Nice.
a couple smallmouth and a largemouth. Now
Nice.
I couldn't get anybody in the tournament on it, but
Right. What do you feel like this gives you any momentum? Like you've talked about confidence quite a bit tonight. Do you feel like going into the next event you've got kind of some confidence coming over from Perry, or totally different lakes, totally different deal, or how
yeah,
much?
a little bit. But yeah, it just depends on the lake. All the lakes are different. Like I said, I've fished Perry and enough that I'm comfortable with that lake. I know a lot of people don't like it, but I've caught some pretty good bass out of that lake, so I've got a decent amount of confidence in Perry. But going into a lake that I've not fished before is a different story.
Yeah.
Even like I said, last night fishing Lake Shawnee. I hadn't fished that Lake Shawnee. I think I fished it once last year. Um, so when you don't really have any spots, like I
Yeah.
said, Perry, I had a game plan. I had some spots picked out. I knew this bite and that bite. Had a kind of a game plan worked out. But when you're going in without any practice or anything, it's a different story. So
for sure. Let's see. Oh, do you have some baits you want to talk about real quick?
Yeah, sure.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, some of my go-tos, like I said, I was showing you those jigs earlier. One of the baits, like the top water I was throwing out at Perry in that particular tournament, just a bone-colored popper. This is one I painted myself, but it's just bone with a little bit of color here and there and a feathered tail.
Nice.
Just pop that a few times along the rocks and then just let it sit. Those smallmouth just come up and hit it when it's sitting still. Another one I had luck with was just a bone colored square bill. This one's a 6 cents one, I think.
Yeah.
And I had was fishing this. I caught a few fish on it, and then I got hooked into like a 7 or 8 pound catfish, and just tore the back hook up on this bait. I didn't have the pliers to swap the hook out on the water, so I ended up. This is the only one of this color I had, so I put in more of a shad pattern on. Didn't get bit on a square bill the rest of the day. Whether that was a color thing or just a timing thing, I don't know, but it was odd.
Huh.
And then one of my other favorite topwaters to throw. This is another 6 cents bait, but this is that speed wake.
Yep.
So it's got that big flat bill on it, and this is fun just to throw and just waddle it across the surface, and it puts out a big wake, and you'll get some good blow-ups on that one for sure.
Heck yeah. I have one. I kind of resort to I throw a little bit bigger, version. Not a 6 cents bait, but a legal dope bait. But I have one of those kind of as a backup, because it does have a really nice action on it, especially for, like a production bait, cost you $10 or $15 maybe.
Yeah. And what's nice about it too, and I don't know if the bigger one does that, but it's got a little bit of a knocker in there, but the clacking of just it just makes a real rhythmic clack, 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 clack as it goes through the water. It's kind of a fun bait to throw.
Like, yeah. You're getting some props on the comment feed here. And Tim's telling us how Perry has some large bass in it.
It does, for sure.
So, yeah, I think that's one that we'll probably see. I'm assuming you would vote to put it back on the schedule for 2024.
Yeah, I'm all for fishing Perry again.
Any lake this year that we're not fishing that you would have liked to have seen?
I know there was, like you mentioned earlier, I believe there was a KBN event down on Bone Creek, but I haven't fished Bone Creek in a couple of years. That used to be one of my favorite lakes around the area.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it's fishing lately, but I know I had done well down there a few years ago.
You probably won't see KKA fish it just because the potential of the size, if we had 30, 40 guys show up, it'd be a shit show.
Yeah, I can fish pretty small, and there's always boat tournaments out there too. I know it can be kind of a pain.
Yeah, but that's kind of why we did it with the KBN. Just decided, hey, we're not gonna fish this one on the KKA stuff. So yeah, assuming we're not gonna get as many people coming to that one. So you may see that again from KBN next year anyway.
Yeah.
But that was the lake that Mr. Seagraves qualified on to go to the national championship. Last year we had our state championship there.
Right on.
So, well, we're kind of right at that hour mark, and I think we've touched on just about anything. Is there anything that you can think of that we didn't talk about, that kind of about the tourney in particular?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, it was just it was a windy day, and I know that kind of blew out some of the spots that I had been planning on fishing, and kind of that was kind of the big takeaway for me. That wind really affected them.
Yeah.
early in the morning. That, like I said, that the first spot that I wanted to hit, they just weren't biting there, and so I bailed on that spot.
Yep. I guess you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
Yep.
But well, I want to wish you luck throughout the rest of the season. We'll be seeing you on the water here before too long, and we'll definitely be cheering you on. Hopefully, I'm competing next to you at the state championship, but if not, I'll be cheering you on at the state championship.
That sounds like a plan. Well, hey, thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, and thank all you guys for joining us. And yeah, we'll go ahead and let you go. But congrats on the win and congrats on qualifying for the championship, man.
All right, appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye. All right, you guys, that's going to wrap up the podcast tonight. I'm ready to go inside in the air conditioning. Had a good time talking with Troy tonight, and definitely kind of ran away with the win there at Perry. 6 inches. That was a pretty nice lead that he ended up with there. You saw 4 or 5, other guys kind of in that same, second place 75.5, third place 75, and you go down to 72 3/4. But he just kind of ran away with it there at the end with that coal. So as he said, not a lot of big fish caught that day. Definitely a tough day, but never a bad time to come away with the tournament win and catching a 18.5-inch smallmouth. So congrats to him. I want to thank all of you guys for watching the show, for subscribing, for supporting the channel. We're over 3,000 subscribers now. We're working on that next milestone. Let your good buddy Shannon Copeland know I've got his bait here, and have him reach out to me so I can send it to him. All right, guys, I'm going to get off of here. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Do me a favor. Share this video with a friend. Share it with the group. Let's grow this thing. So thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.